Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I am Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
It's our Discovery unit today, and we are defying death on Discovery's Still Alive. Discovery Channel, they come out with all sorts of documentary programs.
Yeah.
Now there's one about defying death, okay? Staring death right at the face and saying, no, I'm going to defy you. You're not going to get me, Mr. Grim Reaper.
Yeah, the Grim Reaper is the character that takes you away, I guess, after you pass away or die. These guys are kind of crazy. I'm not a thrill seeker. Some folks out there in the world like to have what we call an adrenaline rush. Adrenaline is a hormone in our bodies that our bodies produce when we get excited or afraid, and it makes our hearts beat rapidly and we get all excited. I'm not a thrill seeker. Some people really like to go on those rides like roller coasters or very scary roller coasters. Some people like to go mountain climbing. And if you go on a really high mountain climb where it snows, it can be very scary. These guys we're going to be talking about for the next 2 days, they're thrill seekers.
Yep, to each his own. Some people like these thrills. They like that adrenaline rush. As I said before, when I travel, I tend to like to hang out with people and chat with them and eat and drink with them. Just have a kind of a social time of it. But some people like adventure and they like doing things that are kind of dangerous, like bungee jumping or kayaking and stuff like that. So we actually are going to talk about some kayakers in today's lesson. So let's get to it. Let's read through the lesson right now, and then we'll come back to discuss it for you. For centuries, explorers and adventurers were only able to document their expeditions through the written word, leaving much of their journeys to our imaginations. Nowadays, thrill seekers can simply strap on a video camera, allowing anyone the possibility of joining in their fun. However, when these cameras happen to capture a favorite pastime turning perilous, they can also give us a glimpse into someone's near-death experience. On Discovery's Still Alive, survivors present their first-hand accounts of narrow escapes with videos as proof. Dave Fusilli and Bren Orton, two experienced kayakers, live for whitewater rapids. They've tackled some of the wildest rivers in the U.S., but when they traveled to Hama Hama River in Washington, U.S., they almost met their match. The two kayakers wanted to film themselves traversing a 2-section waterfall on the river. At 6 meters high, the first drop seemed insignificant, especially compared to the 18-meter-high waterfall just below. Yet there's a lot more to this daring descent than meets the eye. Fusilli experienced the drop before, so he counseled Orton on how to navigate the first waterfall. The left side of the first section has a large hidden outcrop and falls directly into a dangerous whirlpool. To avoid both, they had to enter on the right. Disaster struck when Orton over-paddled and veered his kayak to the left. Fusilli watched as Orton became trapped in the churning water and grabbed onto a small ledge. He knew he only had one chance and mere seconds to help Orton. Both their helmet cams rolled as Fusilli hurled his emergency rope across the pool. With an unbelievable stroke of luck, Orton caught the rope and Fusilli pulled him to safety.
So let's talk about these two gentlemen, these two thrill seekers. We've got, let's see, Dave and Bren. Bren is a very unusual first name. But
seems like it's missing the T there.
Yeah.
Seems like it should be Brent or something, but no, it's Bren.
Yeah, there's usually Brent, but not Bren. So Dave and Bren are going on an expedition, an adventure, you could say. It says here that for centuries, explorers and adventurers were only able to document their expeditions through the written word, leaving much of their journeys to our imaginations. Of course, because long ago there were no cameras, and there certainly weren't video cameras that you could strap to your helmet or things like that. That's kind of fun. So if you document something, guys, you write it down so that later on people can read it as a part of history, or it could be a record of some event. So we do have records of some adventurers. I know when I was a little girl, we would study Lewis and Clark. They were two explorers who explored the United States before it was it wasn't settled yet. It was kind of wild. So they documented their expedition. An expedition is a trip that people usually go on, but it's considered to be a trip that they take to explore, or maybe they're doing some scientific research. It can be quite a journey. So there's usually a particular purpose to it. With these guys, their purpose is to get some thrills.
Yeah, so you were talking about the travels of Lewis and Clark. I believe there's a book all about that, but again...
I read it.
You probably did, yes,
yeah.
And it's available online now as a free ebook if you're interested. But in any case here, yes, that's an example of people going on adventures, but we can only find out about them through the written word, especially if they occurred 200 years ago when there was no photography or tape recorders or video cameras and stuff like that. So, of course... that left much of their journeys to our imaginations. So we could read about it, and maybe they would use clever language and adjectives and things like that. And we could imagine, yeah, that must have been really cool. Waking up at the sunrise and seeing all those pink and purple clouds and stuff like that. You would have to use your imagination. And your imagination, of course, is your mind or your brain's ability to think of something when it's not there. And you're basing that on information that you already have. If you want to be a creative artist or a musician or a writer even, you probably should have a vivid imagination.
Well, that was back in the past. Nowadays, or in the current time we're living, thrill seekers, and we've talked about what these guys are, can simply strap on a video camera, allowing anyone the possibility of joining in their fun because they get to look in and see what they're doing. Now, if you strap something on, you fasten or attach something to another object. You can use strap as a noun or a verb. Here it's a verb, which just means you're fastening something onto something else. So they're fastening a video camera, I think, onto their helmet, onto their hats.
Like
that protect
GoPro
them.
or something like that?
GoPros are very popular video cameras these days for action. So you can put them on you some way and continue to do what you're doing and not have to hold the camera itself.
Yeah, you might even be able to use a dash cam to film things, but most people seem to use GoPro cameras. And, of course, these are thrill seekers, people who are seeking excitement, looking for excitement. And, of course, they want to record their adventures. So they put on that video camera. And then anyone has the possibility of joining in their fun, of experiencing the fun as well. Probably these videos will get posted on websites, probably YouTube. So you can just do a search through YouTube and you can find all sorts of video footage of people doing all sorts of things, going snowboarding, kayaking, skydiving, whatever, and then people can join in. They can also participate in the fun. They're not really there, but they can see it vicariously.
Yeah. So, however, it says when these cameras happen to capture a favorite pastime, turning perilous, they can also give us a glimpse into someone's near-death experience. So sometimes when you're watching the video that these folks are streaming, sometimes they're streaming it live, you unfortunately see some scary events that can look like someone's perhaps going to die. A pastime is some sort of activity that you enjoy when you're not working. It's an activity besides work. We often say baseball is America's favorite pastime. I would argue that it's American football. That's America's favorite pastime. But
yeah, but the season's so short, though. It's not fair.
Yeah, but more people like football. I think my favorite pastime is probably
knitting.
Going out to a restaurant with good friends and eating.
That's a pastime? Okay.
Yes.
Well, you could consider that a hobby or something.
Sure.
Favorite pastime here, of course, the examples we're talking about here would be like mountain biking, kayaking,
badminton,
also hang gliding, badminton, as you said.
It's very popular, yeah.
These are all things
biking.
that people...
Biking's fun around here.
Absolutely, yes. That's probably the biggest pastime here in Taiwan. Cycling, bicycle riding and stuff like that. But some people want to capture or film their favorite pastime turning perilous. Perilous means it gets kind of dangerous and they might get hurt or even killed, which could happen if you're doing, say, kayaking or skydiving. And they can also give us a glimpse into someone's near-death experience. Glimpse here just means a kind of a momentary, quick look at something.
Yeah.
Well, we'll continue talking about Still Alive on Discovery Channel in just a couple of seconds, but right now we're going to take a time out and listen to our Chinese teacher.
Hi everyone, my name is Jenny. 今天呢，我们要看的是第5单元。好，今天我们要介绍一个节目给大家认识。这个节目呢，在 Discovery 频道上叫做 Still Alive。我们要提供给大家2个节目的内容给大家看。第一单元，这里面要说的跟大家很难想象得到的是，一个人在面临死亡的时候，你可能会有很多非常不同的经历，而这些经历呢，竟然透过你的摄影设备把它记录下来，而不是文字。那这就可以让别人知道整个发生的经过了。好，一开始就说了，几世纪来，其实本来大家都是用文字来做记录的。可是呢，这样子的文字记录其实也会有很多的想象空间留给我们。好，我们先看这边开头的一个文法概念，从 leaving 开始 leaving much of their journeys to our imaginations。 我们知道这个 leave 其实就是留下来，当你用 leave A to B, leave something to somebody, 就是把什么留给谁。那当然这边指的就是这个旅程的大部分都留给我们做想象用而已，我们不太能确定到底发生什么事。好，再来往下看，当然我们也说了，现在只要绑一台摄影机，你就可以看到目睹整个过程。当然比较特别的是，假如这个摄影机呢，怎么样happen to capture a favorite pastime turning perilous。 好，我们看到这里 happen to 这个片语，其实这是一个很简单的动词 happen。 我们常常说 something happened to somebody， 那是表示某人他发生了什么事。可是呢 happen 如果像在这里一样，你说 happen to， 如果是说somebody happened to see something， 那就变成你碰巧怎么样了。这里是说摄影机呢碰巧它就呢捕捉到了一个你本来很喜欢的娱乐活动，然后呢就变成了很危险的事情的时候，那可真的是不一样了。所以这里的 happen to 是当作碰巧。好，我们再来往下看，那提到说这样子的经验，它的特别就是它可以让你看到的是一个人的 near death experience。 好，我们在这篇文章里其实陆续都会看到很多的复合名词或复合形容词，像这个地方near death。 那我们在前面呢提到说有些人是属于的 thrill seekers。 什么叫 thrill seekers？ 这也是一个所谓的复合名词，就是热爱追求冒险的人。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It's time now for us to continue our lesson for today.
Yeah.
We are talking about thrill seekers. They strap on video cameras and they film their adventures and they film their favorite pastime, which could actually turn dangerous or perilous. And this program on Discovery Channel, Still Alive, this is where survivors present their first-hand accounts of narrow escapes with videos as proof. Okay, so that's the name of the program we're talking about. Discovery Channel's Still Alive. These people did not die. They did not perish in their adventures. They actually are still with us, although they had a near-death experience. Survivors present their first-hand accounts of these narrow escapes. Account here just means testimony. When somebody tells you about something, they tell you the story, they tell you the details about that. Please give an account of what happened. You might hear somebody ask a witness in a trial. So these are first-hand accounts. In other words, these are the people who actually experience these things. It's not told by somebody else who heard it from somebody else. It's not second-hand. It's straight from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, that's a pretty famous idiom we use. Straight from the horse's mouth means from the person, whatever you're listening to, maybe gossip, it's actually from that person who's involved. So first-hand accounts of narrow escapes. If you have a narrow escape, you barely survive. And it's kind of exciting to see some narrow escapes. And they've got videos to back up their accounts. So they're not just telling you this happened. They're letting you see footage, real proof, you would say. Now, Dave and Bren, these are two experienced kayakers. Kayak is like a canoe. Kayaking is the sport. Kayaker is a person who does it. And a kayak is the actual boat, you could say. They live for whitewater rapids. If you live for something, it means you love it. You just, you can't get enough of it. At one point, I lived for the Yankees. I just loved the Yankees.
Yeah, you don't like them now because they're not doing well.
Oh, they're actually doing very well right now. Don't say that.
Oh, then you're going to start being a fan again. Okay, great.
Whitewater rapids, guys, in case you don't know, is when you're going down a river. It has to be a river. It can't be a lake. And the water's rushing very quickly, and there are a lot of stones or rocks in the water. And it makes a lot of white bubbles, it kind of looks like. And it's called whitewater rapids. They can be dangerous. I've been down them.
Yeah, a kayak, of course, is a boat that kind of covers your whole body. Just your torso sticks out, and you have like paddles on both sides with one paddle, basically.
One stick, right?
Yeah, and I think whitewater rapids, everybody mentions the example here in Taiwan, down in Hualien. I think it's Xiugulanxi or something like that. You can experience that there, but I think that's nothing compared to where these two fellas were in Washington, U.S. We'll get to that in just a second, but it says they've tackled some of the wildest rivers in the U.S. Tackle is oftentimes used in sports. In American football, if somebody knocks somebody down, that's tackling them. I think in soccer, the word just means they took the ball away from the other person. That's called tackle. It kind of depends on the sport here. But also to tackle something means to try a challenge. To tackle kayaking, for example, it's difficult and you probably need some training.
That's right. I went down the Colorado River. That's where I hit my whitewater rapids. It's kind of fun, actually, but it can be dangerous. So they tackled some of the wildest rivers in the U.S., and we've got some good ones, some strong ones. But when they traveled to Hama River in Washington, that's the state of Washington and not Washington, D.C. So we're talking about the state on the west coast of the United States. They almost met their match. If you meet your match, it means you've come up against something that could actually beat you. Your skill level is pretty even, you could say. So the two kayakers wanted to film themselves traversing a two-section waterfall on the river. Traversing is a word we don't typically use when we're talking, but sometimes you'll see it in writing. It's very close to traveling. To traverse means to go from one place to the next. Do you ever use traverse?
Not really. It just means to cross over something, to traverse the country. But again, as you said,
it's more literary,
Yeah, we don't really use it all that much. Basically, they just want to go through this two-section waterfall on the river. A waterfall, of course, is when water falls from a high place to a low place, like in Shifen, here in Taiwan, there's a waterfall there. Niagara Falls, those are all waterfalls, but this is a two-section waterfall, so there's a waterfall a little bit upstream and then going down the stream a little more is another waterfall. So it's basically two waterfalls in one river.
Yeah, that's pretty dangerous if you're in a kayak because the drop, if it's kind of high and it goes very low, you could get in big trouble. Sometimes it even can break boats, if you go down that waterfall.
Yeah, it could hurt,
Yeah, now at 6 meters high, the first drop seemed insignificant. If it's insignificant, it's not really very important. It wasn't very bad, you could say, especially compared to the 18-meter high waterfall just below. Ooh, that's a big one. Yet, there's a lot more to this daring descent than meets the eye. Oh, we've got a lot of stuff here.
Yep.
Now, if there's more to something than meets the eye, it just means it looks harder. It is harder than it actually looks. You got to be careful. Or maybe someone tells you a story and you think, there's more to this than meets the eye. Maybe there's something they're not telling you that you haven't heard yet. If it's daring, guys, it means it takes a lot of courage to do it. Daring means it's adventurous. It can be a little scary, and you need courage to attempt it, I would say. A descent means you're going from a higher position to a lower. You're descending. We often use that verb to talk about a plane that is in the sky and coming down to land.
So basically, it probably looks pretty easy, but there's more stuff there and you don't know about it. So you probably should have some experience there or at least have somebody tell you about it. Now, Fusilli experienced the drop before, so he's got some experience. So as a result, he counseled Orton on how to navigate the first waterfall. To counsel just means to tell somebody how to do something. You could say advise or educate. He counseled him. Here's what you do. Because I did it before. I know, and I'm going to help you out.
Cool. So the left side of the first section has a large hidden outcrop. Now, this word outcrop I've never even seen before, and I've actually gone down Whitewater Rapids, so I'm not sure. Outcrop here says a rock formation that is visible on the surface. So when you're in the rapids, you can kind of see the tops of some of the rocks sticking up out of the water. That's an outcrop. And then it says it falls directly into a dangerous whirlpool. A whirlpool is swirling waters, a lot of waters that are moving very rapidly. And you often see those in, of course, Whitewater Rapids. To avoid both, they had to enter on the right. So we're telling you how they're getting through the river here.
Okay, and disaster struck. Something bad happened when Orton over-paddled and veered his kayak to the left. Over-paddle means he paddled too much. You paddle a boat when you're in it. To veer means to kind of guide your vessel, be it your boat or your car. You kind of change the direction suddenly, okay? You might veer off course. Or if you're driving at night and you're kind of tired, be careful because you might veer off the road. And cause an accident or something like that. So here he veered his kayak to the left. That's not where he was supposed to go. And Fusilli watched as Orton became trapped in the churning water. Churning means the water is just going around in circles with lots of bubbles, lots of rapids. You can churn butter, for example, but churning here means like, hey, you're about ready to be eaten alive by all that water. You might get sucked under and drown. Oh, no!
But it says here he grabbed onto a small ledge. A ledge is just a narrow surface that is poking out from a wall or a cliff. He was able to grab onto a small ledge. He knew he only had one chance and mere seconds to help his pal Orton. Both their helmet cams rolled as Fusilli hurled his emergency rope across the pool. If you have something that is backup for a dangerous situation, you might have an emergency kit in your car. If you get into an accident, you might have a little box of things that will maybe tape up a wound that you get. I have an emergency flashlight at home in case the lights go out one night. Now, he threw or hurled. Hurled means he threw with a lot of force. So he wanted to throw that emergency rope really quickly.
And he had an unbelievable stroke of luck. Stroke of luck means when something lucky happens.
Yeah.
And Orton caught the rope and Fusilli pulled him to safety. Phew. Woo! They lived to tell the tale on our featured program, Still Alive on Discovery Channel. That's it for our explanation. Here comes our Chinese teacher.
好，我们继续来看这个节目叫做 Still Alive。Still Alive， 那在这个节目里面呢，我们就要来看看到底它记录了什么，这些死里逃生的经验，所谓的 narrow escape 到底怎么回事。在下面这一段里面就先提其中的一段节目。好，这里呢有两位很爱做什么活动呢？他们其实是喜欢泛舟，用皮艇泛舟，而他们的生活目标在哪里？ They live for wide water rapids。 他们生活目标就是去做急流泛舟的行为。那我们来看一下，这里有一个字就是 rapid。 当然我们知道，如果用形容词来看的话，这是表示快速的。可是 rapids 在这里它其实是名词，意思指的就是很湍急的水流。好，所以 wide water rapids 在台湾我们当然也有，可是我们知道这种活动呢，在国外可能比在台湾更为热门，更多冒险犯难的人喜欢玩。那我们看这两位人士他们的经验是什么？这次呢，他们好像遇到了劲敌了。好，遇到劲敌这个地方是 meet their match。 好，我们知道 match 就是对手，他们碰到对手了，这也就表示这一段的行程真的不容易。那我们来看下面就说明了这个是一个怎么样的两阶段瀑布。有一段似乎是比较简单，但是它往下就是一段有18公尺高的瀑布。那这个地方看起来下面这段真的很惊险。好，我们要看到的是一个片语，就是 compare to。 他说到这两段这个下面这段如果上面这段跟下面这段比起来的话，真的是微不足道。那 compare to 要记得，有时候我们说 A 和 B 相比，我们用 compare 后面的介系词，它也可以用 with。 好， compare to something， compare with something， 和什么相比之下。好，再来下面还有一句，他说到这个下降可能跟它表面上看起来不一样哦。这个下降呢，没有像它表面看起来那么简单。好，就注意到这个片语，它这里说 There is a lot more to this daring descent than meets the eye。 其实当我们用这个句句话里面的前半我们先看，当你说There is more to something， There is a lot to something， 就是表示这个东西很重要，很有意义。当然这里是一个比较级 more than， 那我们讲 there's more than meets the eye， 这样子意思就是比你眼睛看到的，表面上看到的还要多，还要重要，还要有意义。好，所以当你这边讲 a lot more， 那就不是只有比较多，而是多很多。好，所以这个句子比较特别，大家要留意。好，那到最后呢，我们知道他们两位很惊险的度过了这一次的灾难两位呢都安全了。可是这个最后一句就说 with an unbelievable stroke of luck， 这两位其实是有那么一点好运。好， stroke 这个字其实它本来就可以代表你画一笔或画一画或是一次的努力，当然这边的 a stroke of luck就是表示说有一些好运。好，今天我们讲解就到这里结束，我们下次见。
So we're not done talking about thrill seekers, but in our next program, we're going to change our adventurers, you could say. We're going to be talking about a Dr. John All. And let's find out what he did to kind of risk his life. You'll have to tune in then, though, because we're going to be talking about it a little later. For English Digest, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Tom. Goodbye.
Bye.